Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Mavid Vishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We shall chant Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter 3, verses 31 to 35.
ये मे मतमिदं नित्यम् अनुतिष्ठन्ति मानवाः श्रद्धावन्तो न सूयन्तः मुच्यन्ते तेऽपि कर्मभिः ये त्वेतदभ्यसूयन्तः नानुतिष्ठन्ति मे मतम् सर्वज्ञानविमूढांस्तान् विद्धि नष्टान् चेतसः सदृशं चेष्टते स्वस्याः प्रकृतेर्ज्ञानवानपि प्रकृतिं यान्ति भूतानि निग्रहः किं करिष्यति इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषौ व्यवस्थितौ तयोर्नवशमागच्छेत् तौ ह्यस्य परिपन्थिनौ श्रेयान् स्वधर्मो विगुणः परधर्मात् स्वनुष्ठितात् स्वधर्मे निधनं श्रेयः परधर्मो भयावहः.
We have studied in this chapter 3 up to shloka number 35. In verse number 30, he gave the technique of right action, the formula for ideal action. And then he said, if this teaching of mine is followed with Shraddha, without finding fault, without having that cavilling mind, you would achieve both material and spiritual growth. It will help you. If you don't, and you find fault and you complain, then your life is ruined, he says. So he is not saying it as a threat. All he is saying is, it is a law. If you control and direct your senses towards a higher purpose, higher goal, especially towards the Atma within, you will evolve spiritually and materially. You will attain both peace and prosperity. If you don't do that, if you go with your senses, with your mind, it is going to ruin you completely. That's all he's saying. So then in 33, he said, even a person with knowledge, somebody who has gained the knowledge, but still not totally established in the knowledge. So to explain this, we said ignorance manifests in three phases. I don't know, I don't understand, I don't have experience. So he's talking about a person who's conquered the first two phases of ignorance, which is I don't know and I don't have understanding. He's conquered that. But he's still having ignorance from the third phase angle, which is I haven't got the experience. I'm not realized yet, enlightened yet. So such people is referring to as knowledgeable person in this context. So he's saying even a man of knowledge, jnanavan api, even a man of knowledge acts in accordance with his own nature. Now, even if you take this meaning to be of a Mahatma, even Mahatma will act in accordance with their nature only. But only thing is, since they are in total awareness, their nature is filtered through that awareness. So therefore, only the goodness manifests. The evil is destroyed. So therefore, even if you take it that way, I realized Mahatma is what he's meaning here, then also no problem. Everybody acts according to their nature. So you should not go against your nature. That's all he's trying to say. See, per se in nature, you can't say it is good or bad. It is to what purpose it is being expressed for. You understand? So there are in Puranic stories, a butcher is referred to Mahatma, realized soul. So each one's nature may be different. You can't go by that. They could have kindled the awareness from within, and it might be glowing in them totally throughout 24/7. So you can't go by the nature in what direction it is being used. So he says even a man of knowledge acts in accordance with his own nature. Beings follow their nature, O Arjuna. What can restraint do? Why are you forcing yourself? Arjuna's nature is Kshatriya, warrior, administrator, leader. That's how he is. Even when there is a crisis or when there is some, not necessarily crisis, some festival or some function at home, automatically everybody starts taking roles according to their nature. So that is what he's trying to say. Everything is part of nature. So you have a peculiar, particular nature. Everybody is unique. So don't force yourself. Anything forced is never forceful. So he is therefore saying, what can restraint do? Nigraha kim karishyati. If you force yourself to get out of this battlefield, you may be sitting somewhere else, but you'll be thinking about it only. You'll be talking about it. You'll be thinking about it. You would want to know what's happening on the battlefield. Because that's your nature. So therefore what he's saying is, you go along with your nature. Don't restrain it. Then if you are going along with your nature, you should understand one thing. In every one of us inside, there is what is called as likes and dislikes. So he says, Indriyasya arte. Indriyasya arte raga dvesha vyavastitau. Tayoho vashamna agachet. No one should come under the dominion of the likes and dislikes. Tayoho vashamna agachet. Tau hyasya paripanti. Now, they are the bandits sitting in you. They are the thief. They are your enemies. They steal your awareness if you go by your likes and dislikes. So, he's saying, the likes and dislikes are sitting inside each one of us. You have the nature and you have the likes and dislikes. In fact, when you say nature, it is the bundle of your likes. You understand? So, in the next shloka, immediately he explains. All these three shlokas should be studied together. That's why last week we did 32, 33, 34 and 35. So, in this shloka, he is cautioning us against likes and dislikes. In the previous shloka, he said, don't restrain your nature. In this shloka, he is saying, attachment and aversion, meaning likes and dislikes. For the objects of the senses, abide in the senses. Senses are the external mind. So they are inside you, in your mind. Let none come under the dominion of these two, for they are your enemies. For they are one's enemies. And then having said this, immediately he goes to 35th shloka. And there he says, Shreyam swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushthitat swadharme nidanam shreyaha paradharmo bhayavaha. So, Swadharma, Paradharma. Swa means one's own, Para means alien. Swadharma means one's own nature, one's own dharma, one's own duty. Paradharma means alien nature, alien duty. So, duty is assigned according to one's nature. So, therefore, if you say nature, duty it's not going against the word. So, better is Swadharma, one's own duty, one's own nature, though devoid of merit. Though devoid of merit, Vigunaha, he says. Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha, even if it is devoid of merit. Meaning, situation like this, Arjuna, your nature is to defend righteousness, you are a warrior, so you are on the battlefield. And in the battlefield, you might have to kill people. You have to. So this he sees as Viguna. Some issues are there. What you can do about it? It is part of it. You don't have any personal interest. That you make sure. That's what he said previously. When you choose the field of activity, you must choose the field of activity that is in line with your nature, bundle of your likes. But within the field, do not act on likes and dislikes. Even if there are small issues, vigunas. That's why I gave the example of a butcher. He has to, sell the meat. They are functioning according to their nature. There is no intention. There is no kartrutva. So your kartavyam, your duty should be in accordance to your nature. Within that field, there should be no kartrutva bhava, doership attitude, personal angle, mera likes and dislikes. You should not bring in your likes and dislikes within the field. That's what he's saying. And then he says, it is better to choose Swadharma than Paradharma, alien nature, even if it is well discharged. And it is going to give you name, fame, power, money, everything. Still, he says you choose Swadharma. Why? Because when you are in Paradharma, and even if everything external is happening, deep inside that satisfaction, that happiness is not there, will not be there. So therefore, he says you have to choose Swadharma. See, Swamiji gives one very interesting example. He says, a doctor couple, they had only one son, no daughters, no other sons. So they wanted the son, because they had built a big dispensary, and they wanted their only son also to become a doctor so that he can take over the dispensary after them and run it. They were so interested in that. So the son was growing up, showing a lot of interest in automobile repair and all that. So he wanted to become an automobile engineer. But they forced him to choose medical field. He was a bright fellow. He used to apply in whichever field, and he was intelligent. So he became a doctor also. And he was, in the same hospital, the same dispensary working. Every now and then, I believe, they will search for him because he's not to be seen. So finally, he will be seen under an ambulance, repairing it, setting things right, fixing something. Because that is where his nature is. You understand? So therefore, you have to follow your Swadharma. And even in your Swadharma, like people ask, if I follow cricket, which is my Swadharma, and I may not play for India, it's all right. Even if you play for your country, if you don't play for your country, you may be playing for your state or for your company. But when you play, when you do that, that's exactly where you find maximum happiness. Only thing within that field, you don't act on your likes and dislikes. Don't play for records. Let records be a byproduct. Those are correct. But it can happen to you, that happiness can happen to you only when you are in that field. If you are in alien field, how much ever money and everything comes, it cannot give you that deep satisfaction. And therefore, he says, you choose Swadharma. Better is death in Swadharma, he says. And death can come anytime, any minute. Right? And what better death can be while you are doing something that you really love, forgetting your selfishness, your little self. Therefore, he says, better is death in Swadharma, Paradharma, fraught with fear. Bhayavahaha. Bhayavahaha, fraught with fear, means it is fraught with frustrations, depression, and a lot of suppression is there. You suppressed your nature. You're doing something else. Inherently, you're not really happy. So now a question may come, what if I'm already in Paradharma? Due to whatever circumstances, what am I supposed to do? Should I drop everything and then get back to Swadharma following the shloka? You have to principally, but you have to understand the situation and do it according to the situation slowly. Now, you might have created a samsara. You may have a family, you may have children, you have to pay the fees, and all the other things are there. So, principally, you have to get back to your Swadharma. Even though if you are in Paradharmic field, the principle is to get back. But whether you immediately do it or you do it slowly, intelligently, depends on so many other factors. This is what we need to understand. After listening to the shloka, if you immediately do and you get into trouble and then say, I only followed Gita, then Gita is not responsible for it. So therefore, remember, you must choose Swadharma. By chance you chose Paradharma, to get back to Swadharma slowly. Because that is where you will drop vasanas if you function like this. In Paradharma, it is very difficult. You've been designed like that. You made like that. It's because of your vasanas. Why you want to go and do something else? It is actually selling yourself. It is equal to selling yourself. For survival's sake. When doing that, what are we doing is, we are trying to protect this false ego. Our whole life is consumed in protecting this false ego to somehow survive, to satisfy this ego, to make a living. In making a living, we are mortgaging our life. This is pathetic. That's why he says, Paradharma is fraught with fear. Instead of being ourselves, you've taken something else because in that there is a lot of money, this and that. I remember many years ago, we are in 2025. I think around 2002 or so, I was doing class for children. Children means teenagers. And one guy was in 12th standard, the boy attending my class. When I was doing this concept, Swadharma, Paradharma and all, he asked this question. And yeah, correct, now I remember. It was immediately after that 9/11 attack, 2001, 9/11. That attack ke baad, this class was happening, I think around 2002 or so. He asked this question, correct. So he said, you are saying we must choose Swadharma. And my Swadharma is to become an aeronautical engineer. I really love studying about aeronautics. That has been my interest all along. I also wanted to choose that. But now after 9/11, during that period, if you remember, the airline industry was going through a very bad patch. So his uncle was working in a very big airlines in abroad. I think Gulf Air or something he was working. So his uncle has said, don't choose aeronautical engineering now. Because it's going through tough time, we don't know what will happen in future. So you don't choose aeronautical engineering is the advice his uncle is giving, who is in that field, who is experienced. So his question was, should I follow my uncle, who is experienced, who is in that field and experienced, or should I follow Bhagavad Gita, your class? What should I do? I'm confused. So there, I said, you should still choose Swadharma. Aeronautical engineering field, airline industry field is not going to be completely shut. This I said in 2002. Yes, now it's going on increasing. New airlines are coming. Right? Everything will go ups and down, but nothing come on. But in that field, you should not act on your likes and dislikes, and you should focus your mind, concentrate, be consistent, and apply the 3C principles and be a specialist in that field. Within that field, you got to be a specialist in any field. Because when he says there is not much scope in aeronautical engineering field, when they are going to, take away a lot of people from employment, whom are they going to take? Are they going to take the specialist away? No way. So, therefore, when you are a specialist, jobs will seek you. You don't have to seek jobs. Like sugar is sought after by the ants. Sugar doesn't go to the ants. You drop little sugar and see what happens. Immediately after some time, you'll find a lot of ants coming to it. So you got to crystallize yourself in that particular field. And Arjuna, so far as Arjuna is concerned, he has crystallized himself in that field. He was number one in the art of archery. He had never lost a battle. Even recently, Alcaraz was a sinner in US Open. Here, Alcaraz won. And in Wimbledon, Sinner won. In French Open, Alcaraz won. It's a very interesting rivalry going on now. So they will constantly be showing you the statistics. How many matches they played against each other, how many of them were Grand Slams, how many of them were ATP, how many he won. Like that, when you see the statistics of Arjuna, all battles he has won. And he's won a battle before this Mahabharata against all these people single-handedly. So his statistics is like that. So he was number one in that field. He was sugar in that sense. But the problem was within that field, he gave it to his likes and dislikes. Within that field, he gave it to his ego. This is what we are all doing. Either for ego's sake, we choose paradharmic field, or within the field, we give in to our ego. The two big tyrants sitting within us in the form of mind and ego. Egocentric desires and egoistic attitude. So we need to deal with them. And that's what Sri Krishna is teaching here. So he's not telling Arjuna, within the field you got to be number one, because he's already number one. He's not training him on any particular skill. There's no problem of skill here. That is not the problem here. The crisis is not of the skill. The crisis is with reference to the approach, with reference to the attitude within. So that's what Sri Krishna is dealing here. So he's saying, choose the Swadharmic field, but within the Swadharmic field, don't act on likes and dislikes. And already he used the word Loka Sangraha. You have to read it in the total context. In verse number 20, he said, in this very same chapter, verse number 20, he already said, follow the example of people like Janaka, etc. Even though they were all enlightened, they were all doing actions in the spirit of welfare of the world. Sangraha. Sangrahame vapi. He said, for the sake of Loka Sangraha. So, for the sake of world, it should be, the nature should be directed, not for your personal selfish interest. Keep aside your personal selfish interest and then apply yourself. That's what he's trying to teach here, Sri Krishna. So, and instead of succeeding, choosing paradharmic field, being unknown, but doing your Swadharma and finding that inner satisfaction, giving yourself totally in it, and that is what is required. People like Van Gogh, they were not known during their period. Now, if you have a photocopy of his painting, you can make millions. This is what I'm told. Shakespeare, people have their theatres and they are enacting Shakespeare's play and they are making money, minting money. Shakespeare had no money. Same thing in Tamil Nadu, if you go Mahakavi Bharati. So many people are there. You understand? So they didn't bother about becoming famous, this and that. In their mind, it cannot be there. It wasn't there. They just had a higher goal, higher purpose, and they dedicated their nature for that, and just losing their ego functioned. And with tremendous inspiration, whether they were known, whether their work was producing any great following, money. They didn't bother. They continued. Many scriptures, many things are like that. They are not known. You understand? Who wrote Kena Upanishad? Nobody knows. Upanishad is called as Kena Upanishad. Kena means by whom. There is no name of the author there. They didn't care about themselves. And such work, when you do, losing your ego totally, who can put a money to that work? Who can pay a salary to that work? Somebody asked Swami Dayananda Saraswati, why are you not charging for your sessions? He said, because you cannot afford. See, any work in which the ego is totally lost is divine work. Sri Krishna having a flute which has 7 holes. There is the 5 senses, mind and intellect. And if it is in the hands of Sri Krishna, the Atma, then the melodious music comes out of it. The gopis, the animals, everyone will be flocking to his music. Now, if the flute was in your hand or my hand, who are full of egoistic notions, only jarring note will come. Instead of attracting everybody, it will repel people from us. You understand? So, that's why it's called as Srimad Bhagavad Gita, Song of the Lord. It is coming directly from Bhagavan. We say this knowledge, Upanishads, Vedanta, Bhagavad Gita, these are called as apaurusham. Apaurusham means that which has come out through the individual's effort. And these scriptures are not something that is born out of individual effort. These scriptures came through them. You understand? It is revealed through them. The divinity is expressing through them. So that is what Sri Krishna is teaching here. In this entire portion, all that he's trying to say is, you've got the knowledge that you are Atma, not this body, mind, intellect. And you have this Swabhava, Swadharma, based on that Swabhava. Go about doing it, forgetting this ego. Throw away this personal likes and dislikes. How long are you going to be bothered about what is going to be your next meal? Is there going to be a next meal? And what is going to be my next meal? How long are you going to be bothered about? So there's a very interesting quotation. Very often Swamiji quotes it. It says, a stone that is fit for the wall would not be found on the way. A stone that is fit for the wall would not be found on the way. Stone fit for the wall would not be found on the way. So, nature will have to take it to its end. You are not doing it. You understand? You have to surrender that ego and then just go with that flow. This is what he's teaching. It's an outstanding teaching. If we can really understand this and follow, you will see the benefit. This is what they call, when they talk in common parlance, they say, an action that is done with Atma. Atmartha karma. You understand? It is called Atmartha karma. It is done for the satisfaction of the self. It's not done to please anybody. I've said this story many times. When Akbar asked Tansen, is there anyone better singer than you? He said, yes, my Guru, Haridas Ji. Nobody can sing like him. So he said, Acha, can we hear him? Can you bring him here? He will not come here, we will have to go there. So he said, let's go. And Haridas Ji was sitting there. He said, let's go and approach him and ask him to sing for us. He said, he's not going to sing like that. You wait. When he sings, you listen. You need patience for it. You have to wait. You understand? So he said, okay, no problem. I'll wait. And when Haridas Ji was inspired, and when he sang, the emperor was absolutely mesmerized. He said, "You're right. There's a notion of difference between your singing and his singing. Yours is very good, but his is something divine. Why is it?" For which Tansen said, "I believe I sing for Emperor Akbar. He sings for the emperor of the whole world, Atma, Brahman." So there is no comparison between Atmartha karma and Vishayartha karma. All our actions are for some Vishaya, something. Whole life is gone. We have pledged our life mechanically for earning some living. Isn't it? And we know that. And that's why deep inside that frustration. Because you cannot be happy being a slave. Even in a huge palace, if you are a slave, how can you be happy? This is Sri Krishna's question. No Mahatma. See, I remember Swamiji telling this to us when we were in the ashram. Swamiji's guru was Swami Chinmananda, and in Chinmaya ashram, I believe somebody who studied with Swami Chinmananda ji, his name is, I think, Sri Govinda Giriji. So Govinda Giriji, when he had come from Himalayas, he came to Chinmananda ji's ashram. Guru Bhai, So he came. Chinmananda ji was very happy. He gave him one of the best rooms possible and said, "Stay here only permanently. This is your ashram, stay." He stayed for 2-3 days and then he said, "I'm going now." And what happened? You should be here. I told you, be here. He said, "Why are you trying to arrest this bird in a cage? Let me go." So you got to be free spirited. Now, this has to be understood correctly. I am not saying that you should not work in an organization for a salary. But when you work for a salary also, your work should not be for a salary. Salary should be a byproduct. Your work should be an expression of your inner joy. You understand? And that will be an inspirational work. And that will inspire everybody else. And in fact, as a leader, first and foremost, you should be like that in any organization. Others also should be like that, and you also should be like that. You should be like that, only then others will be like that. So, he is saying that. So, you should understand. Otherwise, you'll say, "Yaar, what is this? Should you not take up a job? Should you not work for a job? Should you not work under somebody?" Not like that. Even when in the worldly setup, you seem to be working under somebody, you're not working for anybody. You're not working to please anybody. That's why Swami Ramtita says, you have no obligation in world except to be cheerful, to be self-poised and self-pleased. The self is capital S, not small s. When you follow Paradharma, why are we doing it? To please the small self. We have to rise and not please the small self. We have to please the higher self in us. So individually, when you see, the very interesting thing is the word individual comes from indivisible. You are actually indivisible reality, indivisible consciousness, truth. That indivisible consciousness, which is free from everything, how can it function like a slave? That's what we are doing. Like Shakespeare says, "What a fall was there, my country." Julius Caesar. In that story, "What a fall was there, my countrymen," says Mark Antony's oration. Like that, we have all fallen. So, Sri Krishna is telling us to rise again. Follow the inner nature, align it with the truth. Never align it with this false ego. When you align it with false ego, there may be a lot of comfort coming with it. But how much of a comfort you may get, how much of an improvement you may do to the false ego, its inherent nature that it is false will not change. See, that's what we have to understand. Individual contacting the world goes through experiences. Series of such experiences is life. And you go on improving the world. The world that we are living today is far superior compared to the world the kings and queens experienced, isn't it? The kings and queens did not experience this kind of a world that we are in today. The world that we are going through is far better. A lot of scientific advancements have happened. Vedanta is not saying that you should not do that advancement. It should be there. The kings and queens did not have transportation like you and me have. They didn't have air conditioners. They didn't have the toilet facilities. They didn't have any of this. So we are leading a far superior world. So has this scientific advancements changed the very inherent nature of the world? The inherent nature of the world is what? Changing, passing, fleeting, temporary, impermanent. That cannot change. So, when we give ourselves into paradharma, we are trying to glorify that falsehood. And however decorated the falsehood may be, there will always be that insecurity within that the falsehood will one day be exposed. Isn't it? When you put makeup, they tell you this makeup will last for a few hours, 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever number of hours. And then it has to be protected with this and that, and all kinds of things has to go. You can't go into too much heat, this thing, that thing. So many conditions, right? And you follow all the conditions, still X amount of time it can be. Then quickly you have to again put up the makeup. Otherwise, the truth will come up. Falsehood will be exposed. And that's exactly what is happening to our life. When this particular thing is lost. And this was the problem. This is the problem Bhagavad Gita is addressing. And this is why we say this is a very important knowledge. This is a crisis of different level, different order. Here the problem is not Arjuna doesn't have skill. That's not the crisis. You understand? It's much deeper crisis. And with reference to that, all of us are still Arjunas. So, like Jesus Christ was sold for few silver coins, we have sold ourselves into paradharma. So that's why he's saying paradharma is fraught with fear. Nobody understands this. No Mahatma can be bought. Not possible. You understand? It's impossible to buy a Mahatma. So, because they will never compromise on their freedom. Highest value is freedom. Wherever there is freedom to be compromised, you got to fight against it. And you will see the trap for freedom will always be a lot of comfort. So you are given comfort, if you go by that, if you go with that slavery. Some of these freedom fighters, when you see them, I mean, they were very rich, they were highly qualified. If they only said yes sir, no sir to the oppressors, they would have made millions those days. And some of them made millions like that. You understand? They didn't make millions because they never compromised on their freedom. Compromising on your freedom is the worst thing you can do to yourself, which is what is called as mortgaging your life in the hands of living. And that's exactly what all of us are doing. Our life, why is there so much stress and strain? It is not because of the work that we do. It is because of this mortgaging the inner self. This is what we need to understand. The stress and strain that we go through in life is not because of any other factor. We have mortgaged our self. It's not the love that is driving our action. It is the survival that is driving our action. And this is what Bhagavad Gita is addressing. Many thousands of years ago is given this. This knowledge is given. Shreyam swadharmo vigunaha paradharmat swanushtita. So there is no, this is addressing something else also when it says viguna. This from the worldly point of view, it may be seen as good, it may be seen as bad. Nobody would personally like to kill anybody, isn't it? If there is an option, why would you have to go through that killing and all that? So, but that's a kind of a demerit. But still you should do your Swadharma, because it's not necessary that your actions will have no demerits. Something or other will be there. When the moment you take up higher purpose and function, see the fact that we are living, we are talking, for example, we are talking about Bhagavad Gita. We have to kill a lot of invisible insects as you're talking. Though you're talking on Bhagavad Gita, invisible insects are being killed. When you're walking, when you're going somewhere, even taking 2 steps, invisible insects are being killed. So there will be viguna. There will be all these issues to every work. Don't worry. You will not incur any sin, any pap. Because Arjuna's whole discussion was pap, pap, pap. I should not get pap. The contrary, what people like Swami Vivekananda said was very interesting. He said, by serving people, if I'm going to be born again and again and not attain moksha, I will choose that. In one context, he said like that. What they're trying to tell is, you have to rise above this small little self. So don't compromise on your nature and don't stoop down to the level of ego for some silver coins. If this you can maintain, and externally there may be poverty, externally there may be everything, but you live like a king. That's what he's trying to say here. Better is Swadharma, though devoid of merit, than Paradharma, well discharged. Better is death, facing death, doing your Swadharma. See, death can be scary only to a person who is given into ego, because only ego dies. Because it is the ego that came into birth. Atma never came into birth. Therefore, there is no question of death for the Atma. That which came into existence will have to die. Chatasya hi dhruvo mrityu, dhruvam janma mritasya cha. Isn't it? That which came into birth will die. So when he says, better is death in Swadharma, you can only choose Swadharma when you rise above your little self-ego, which had a birth. And that person, how will he be bothered about death? Shouldn't care less. If it happens as is fighting on the battlefield, which happens to be his Swadharma, or as is dancing, which happens to be his Swadharma, or singing, which happens to be his or her Swadharma, or giving lecture on Bhagavad Gita, which happens to be his or her Swadharma. They are above all this already. That's what he's saying. He's talking about inspirational action, far superior superior to incentivized action. Today, what motivates people is incentives. Incentivized actions are all executed only by slaves. Inspirational actions are executed by free individuals, free people. You understand? So those who were with, what do you call, Pandavas, very few compared to those who were with Duryodhana. But still, inspirational action won against incentivized. Incentivized will work against another incentivized. That's a different thing. So this varies in kind. The other things vary only in degree. So Sri Krishna wants you to do an action which varies in kind, not just that which varies in degree. You understand? Any day everybody has to die. Gain this knowledge. Don't mortgage your life in the hands of your little self. It's not worth living like that. You understand? It's tough. Very few people have that guts. It's not easy though. It's not easy to choose, Swadharma. And it is not easy to continue in Swadharma, especially when you are not going through success or anything in that, the material sense. That is only possible by someone who is deeply inspired and knowledgeable. Otherwise, it's difficult. And since it's difficult, Sri Krishna is talking about it. Something which is easy and anybody can do it, why would he talk about it? So, this is an outstanding shloka. So, it needs to be looked at from all different angles. That's why when I did this shloka last week, I said we'll do it in detail. So, remember this shloka. Shreya means that which is good for you. Better. Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha. The Vigunas that are there in your Swadharma, don't worry. As long as you do not have the action propelled by selfish ego. When you do, you've applied your intellect, you've made sure that as little damage you cause as possible, but it's completely unavoidable. Continue doing your Swadharma with that spirit. That's what he's saying. Shreyan Swadharmo Vigunaha Paradharmat Swanushtita. Than following somebody else's nature. Why would you follow somebody else's nature? Some other thing. Survival. Taking care of ego. You understand? You've fallen from that level. Which means you have become a slave, beggar. Swadharme Nidanam Shreya. You've already killed the ego, and thereafter if the ego dies or not dies, how does it matter? Swadharme Nidanam Shreya. Paradharmo Bhayavaha. It is fraught with fear throughout, from beginning till end, that insecurity, frustration, depression, dissatisfaction will continue with you because you are traveling in a first class seat as a beggar. So the question is not whether you are traveling in economy or in first class. Are you traveling as a beggar or are you traveling as a king? That's the question. And that's what Sri Krishna is telling you. Be a king, man. When you are the king, and when you can be the king, why are you stooping down to the level of a beggar? This is the advice Sri Krishna is giving. So rise above your petty likes and dislikes within that field. And once you apply yourself like that, controlling your likes and dislikes within the field, like we say, when you choose medicine, first year you have to do certain things, second year you have to do certain things. Now, you may not be interested in that particular subject, but it has to be studied. It comes as a package what to do. You want to be a doctor, but you have to study this. It comes as a package. So there you don't say, I don't like this. If you say I don't like it and don't study and don't pass in it, you won't go to the next level. You won't get the degree. So within the field, do not act on likes and dislikes. The field should be according to your Swadharma, which is the bundle of your likes, your vasanas. And having chosen that, within the field, don't act on your likes and dislikes. This way, if you function, you will succeed. Now, from 36 to 39, in this portion, he gives the next topic. He's talking about various obstacles, the problems, the impediments that comes in implementing these technique of action. What are these impediments? How to overcome that? That's the discussion now from 36 onwards. Let's chant verse 36.
अर्जुन उवाच अथ केन प्रयुक्तोऽयं पापं चरति पूरुषः अनिच्छन्नपि वार्ष्णेय बलादिव नियोजितः.
Arjuna Uvacha, Arjuna asked. Now, Sri Krishna spoke so far. He gave the technique of right action. He told, if you follow this, this is the benefit you'll get. And this is how you should follow. And if you don't follow it correctly, you will be ruined. And now Arjuna is asking a question. By what impulse does man commit, though against his wish, O Varshnaya, constrained as it were by force? Sri Krishna said, even a man of knowledge acts according to his or her nature. Right? So why is this happening? That is Arjuna's question here. But by what compelled, does man commit sin? Meaning you all know, every one of us know what should be done, what should not be done. Still we do what should not be done and we avoid doing what should be done. So Arjuna is asking, but by what impulse does man commit sin, though against his wish, O Varshneya? O Krishna, who belonged to Vrishni clan, constrained as it were by force. There seems to be something compelling us. What is that force? Isn't it? You know, you want to do it. But still something forces you to do something else. You studied all that, still, chalo, I'll take Paravan. You know you shouldn't be doing, but we do. That is Arjuna's question. But by what impel? Where is it? Is it outside? Is it inside? And what is it? What force? There seems to be something compelling. It seems to be a very big force. What force is that? What is that force? Should I not learn how to deal with it? This is very interesting. Every one of us take certain vows, want to execute action this way, but we compromise. And when we compromised, even though externally we feel there was a choice not to compromise, it was almost done because from the practical point of view, I had no choice, almost. And that's what he calls it as force. What is that force? Where is it coming from? What is that force? How do I deal? When he says, what is that force? This is what it means. How do I deal with it? Where is it coming from? I need to understand that. See, in fact, if you want to deal with anything, you first have to have understanding. For that, first you have to accept that I don't know. And as long as I don't know, it will be frightening. It will cause fear. When I begin to know about it, I can conquer fear. In fact, the best way to conquer fear is gradual exposure to that to which you are afraid of. Intelligently. Little by little, you begin to learn about it. when you little by little begin to learn about it, then that fear will go. Intelligent, gradual exposure. So that's what Arjuna is asking, and Sri Krishna is going to explain that, which we'll see next week. But this question is very important question from that angle, because we are studying, we are reading, we are reflecting, we know many things. But something seems to be forcing us. What is that? That is Arjuna's question. What it is, we'll study next week. Let's conclude now. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.